Morning, Joe. Let's see. Get around. Come around me on the left. Side. You got Kevin's going to be with you?
What's that?
Okay.
He's good.
All righty. Okay, y'all all ready? Okay, good morning. Thanks for coming. Sheriff Greg Champagne, St. Charles Parish. I'm honored to have with me today the Chief Deputy of the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, Joe LaPinto. Also, I've got some of my staff members here who were instrumental in working in this case. We got the case detective, Detective Jenny Barrett, Sergeant Jeremy Pitchford, and Captain Donald Smith with our Investigations Division. So we're here today to announce an important arrest in an incident which was very caused a lot of anxiety here in Boutte on a couple of days ago on Wednesday morning. We have yesterday afternoon, we obtained an arrest warrant for Damon Bryant, 19 years old, with an address of 216 Chapel Lane in Avondale. We've arrested Mr. Bryant after getting warrants from Judge Emile St. Pierre for attempted first-degree murder and also attempted armed robbery. Mr. Bryant was arrested with the assistance of the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office last evening, about 7 p.m., after his home was staked out and he got in his vehicle to leave the home. Jefferson Parish Sheriff's deputies stopped him at Highway 90 in Avondale and arrested him safely without incident. This whole event started Wednesday morning. We have a victim in his 30s who is a male, who is his job is a courier for an ATM service company. And basically what his job is to bring money around and resupply ATM machines for a company which, you know, we're not going to get into the names or his name at this point in time. So anyway, the victim, as he has done many times before, went to the Capital One Bank on Elmwood and was there to get a supply of cash in order to go replenish ATM machines, and his destination was Thibodaux, Louisiana, actually that morning. While he was in the bank, Mr. Bryant, by happenstance, happened to also be in the bank on some banking business he was doing. He apparently noticed the victim receive a fairly large amount of cash, and we're talking about several $1,000s. This obviously caught his attention, and he left the parking lot. The victim left the parking lot in his vehicle, and Mr. Bryant was close behind, apparently with the idea of waiting for an opportunity to rob the victim of the cash. The victim proceeded across the UP Long Bridge through Jefferson Parish on Highway 90 westbound, headed for Thibodaux. He made the decision, as we understand he has done in the past, to stop for some food. This was about 9:20, maybe 10 o'clock in Boutte, Louisiana. He stopped at the racetrack gas station to get some food. Victim got out of his vehicle, walks into the racetrack. The clerk at the racetrack was announcing to customers that their electronic system was down, that they were accepting cash only, and even though he had a fair amount of cash apparently on him, it wasn't his personal cash, so he wasn't going to buy his food there. He decided to relocate across the street where there's a Burger King. So the victim drives across the street from the racetrack, goes to the Burger King, and gets in the drive-up line. Subsequently, the victim recalls, after the robbery attempt occurred and the shooting, that he saw the perpetrator approaching him at the racetrack before he left. So apparently the abrupt turnaround when the victim was not able to purchase his food at racetrack kind of skewed his plan at that point. So victim leaves, goes to Burger King, perpetrator gets in his car, sees him go to Burger King, crosses the street, and we're talking about right across Highway 90. This is all right across Catacorner, basically from Hornville High School, which had faculty was there, many students were there registering, so there was a fair amount of people, even though school is not officially open yet, at Hornville High School. Between Hornville High School and the Burger King, right in front of Hornville High School, is an IHOP restaurant. Perpetrator parks his vehicle in the IHOP parking lot. Between the IHOP parking lot and the Burger King is a remodeled residence, which is now owned by the school board, which is a pupil appraisement center. Perpetrator runs or walks through the yard of the pupil appraisement center, going to the Burger King, looking obviously to make good on his intentions to rob the victim at the Burger King. Victim's in a drive-up line. He gets his food. As he pulls away from the drive-up window, he stops for a second to check his order. And I'm sure that probably pleased the robber because it conveniently gave him his opportunity. The robber confronts the victim in front of his car, pulls his weapon, tells him to stop. The victim, then attempts to drive away and swerve to leave. As he is leaving, the perpetrator fires a shot. Victim had his arm up in a defensive posture and was struck above the elbow with a bullet above his wrist, his left arm. A bullet traveled some distance up his arm. We are aware that he has had some tendon and nerve damage. He is in the hospital, has had a surgery. We understand it's not life-threatening, so we hope he's going to be okay. So he was shot in the arm as he was attempting to drive off by the perpetrator. Perpetrator, being foiled ultimately on the opportunity for his robbery again, flees back from the Burger King through the yard of the Pupil Appraisement Center on Highway 90 and gets back in his car at the IHOP and flees eastbound back to the Avondale area in Jefferson Parish. Our detectives, we had numerous personnel on the scene. The disconcerting thing about all of this is the fact that, with social media and all the instantaneous messaging, a lot of it gets out and it's inaccurate. Originally, messages were coming out that there was an active shooter at Hornville High School. And I would urge people in the future, get some facts first before you do that. This terrified a lot of people. They're thinking their kids involved in an active shooting. So please, just wait a little bit. I mean, obviously this is a serious incident, but, this thing goes out instantaneously to so many thousands of people. I ask people to be careful in the future with it. So here we are trying to get information, trying to get information to the school system at the same time trying to deal with what, we're unsure of. We're getting a 911 call from the victim about a shooting. So, it's going to take a little bit of a time for our people to deploy, to get there and figure out exactly what's happening, which they did. So numerous sheriff's deputies, detectives descend upon the scene. The victim had fled went across the street actually to a Exxon. There's an Exxon, a Champions store for a bit, ended up finally at the La Quinta Inn, which is a little ways down Highway 90, where we met him and trying to figure out exactly what's going on at this point in time. Bottom line is Detective Barrett, Sergeant Pitchford, and numerous detectives and deputies on the scene just did an excellent job. We were able to capture within, again, it takes time, numerous video footage of the incident, not the incident actually happening, but the perpetrator in the area, et cetera, et cetera. And we have video surveillance to corroborate all the facts that I just told you. So technology obviously has played an important role. We know where to look. Our detectives know where to go, and they did just a fantastic job just working through the night and through yesterday afternoon, through the arrest, and still we got a lot of loose ends to tie up. So after a great job and a fantastic job, as I indicated earlier, the arrest was made in Avondale, and the perpetrator is in custody. I want to thank a few people. First, I want to thank Sheriff Norman, Chief Deputy Lopinto, and the great cooperation that we got from Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, which we always get. We're two very close agencies. When they need help, we help them as we can. When we need help, we certainly get full cooperation, and that was the case here. I mean, whatever we need, we get, and whatever they need, we get. So I thank Chief Lopinto. Please thank Sheriff Norman for me also. For that great cooperation. It's just nice to have friends who can jump in and really and do the things that they do for us as well. We want to thank the school board. We got a lot of cooperation from them, from Mr. Rogers, the security director. School was placed on lockdown before we could figure out what was going on, which again created a lot of consternation in the community, which hopefully we were able to, within an hour or so, to calm everybody's fears about what was really happening. That it was a robbery, it was a serious event, but that school kids were at no time were in any danger. But as a precaution, and again, we trained for this with them, these precautions were taken to make sure that the kids were safe at school and the faculty was safe, which they were. They were no time really in any danger ultimately, but at the time you don't really know. The La Quinta Inn personnel were very helpful to us and cooperative. We had citizens calling us with information, several businesses providing us video surveillance. We thank all of them. And I hope I didn't leave anybody out. Anybody think of anybody that I left out there? And there may be some more. If I left anybody out, and that was unintentional, we apologize. But so we believe we're turning over to the district attorney what we believe is a really good case for attempted murder and armed robbery. And again, the reason for attempted first-degree murder is if you commit attempted murder during the course of one of several crimes. Armed robbery is one of them. It falls in the category of attempted first-degree murder. We've also charged him with armed robbery. Ultimately, the DA is going to probably go to a grand jury and look at and decide exactly what he wants to proceed, what he wants to go with. In addition to that, there's some more good news, and I think Chief Lupinto is going to talk a little bit about that this has, in fact, opened some doors in regards to this particular perpetrator. Chief.
Thank you, Chief Deputy Joseph Lupinto. As we said on numerous occasions, law enforcement and criminals don't have any boundaries. We don't stop at a parish line. The criminals don't either stop at a parish line. We've always had a great working relationship with the St. Charles Parish Sheriff's Office. We'll always continue that relationship. But because of their due diligence today, the suspect in this matter, Demond Bryan, was also linked up with 3 different armed robberies that occurred in Jefferson Parish. So our search warrants and our arrest of him last night in Jefferson Parish were able to give us additional information to link him to 3 different instances that occurred between July 20th and July 27th, including the Waffle House near the intersection of Berman and Holmes, the 2900 block of North Monterey where a vehicle was taken, and the Copeland's restaurant at the 1000 block of South Clearview. All of those incidents have been linked to the same suspect. So the suspect is currently in the Jefferson Parish Correctional Center with 5 separate counts of armed robbery related to those 3 instances, and the firearm was also located. The firearm in this was a stolen weapon, so he's been charged with possession of a stolen firearm, and I can say that we have already linked that firearm to the armed robbery that happened here in St. Charles Parish. So great work, police work by not only the St. Charles Parish Sheriff's Office, but by the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office to put someone in jail before he can commit any additional ones in the future.
Okay, I'll try to take a few questions, but as y'all know, I'm careful about that because we have to turn the case over to DA, and there are certain things we talk about and certain things that I may or may not elaborate on. So I may give you a couple of opportunities to get some more information out of me, but we'll see.
Jim, what led you to Commissioner Bryan? What ties him to the St. Charles incident?
Basically, video footage, multiple sources of video footage.
How were you able to identify him from that video surveillance?
That's what we don't want to get into. We were able to identify, I can tell you this, we were able to identify the car, get the license plate of the car very quickly, and the car is owned by a girlfriend. So that... I'm sorry, what type of car? Can you say what type of car? What type of car is it? Toyota Corolla. Toyota Corolla. So that, that gave us a pretty hot trail, and we were able to develop that quickly. It was a Capital One Bank on Clearview. No, was it Elmwood? Elmwood?
So it actually started in Elmwood, and he began following the victim and basically...
Yes, he happened to be in the bank at the same time the victim was receiving the cash to go replenish the ATM machines, and obviously saw it.
Did he act alone?
Well, he had his fiancée in the car with him. We're not going to identify her at this point. There were no charges against her.
Your reaction to something like this, especially that this happens nearby a school?
Well, that was a very disconcerting for all of us. I happened to be, in fact, Chief Lopinto and I were at the Louisiana Sheriff's Association conference out of town, getting this information, working with people, of course, through phones and social media, we can do that. That was concerning because, we were discussing that earlier. I mean, with social media today, things are so instantaneous. I mean, a lot of times we get ahead of ourselves, and the public does too. I mean, say, hey, what's going on? Police cars are all at the Burger King in such a location. We're starting to get that all the time where, citizens there, when something's happening, I mean, they're actually seeing things that we're not knowing about unless you're there on the scene. So it takes us a while to figure things out. So we ask them not to jump to conclusions just because you see police cars somewhere, So that was the issue. But let me tell you, even more importantly here is this victim got shot in the arm in a defensive way. So but for the grace of God and maybe a couple of inches of aim, we could have had a deceased victim laying in the parking lot of that Burger King Wednesday morning. So thank God he's going to be safe and he's going to be alive. So this perpetrator obviously was willing to go to great lengths to get that cash that he saw. And so frankly, had the victim not stopped in Boutte, there's no doubt he was going to follow him into Lafourche Parish, if he got that far. So something bad was going to happen somewhere that morning. And it was going to be the first place that this victim stopped. So, in fact, I was kind of joking with Sheriff Weber and Lafourche. I said, we might have saved you from getting a pretty serious crime that day, which undoubtedly would have happened. So, another message I hope is obvious is that those people that are in the business, and again, this young man probably did this hundreds of times before. This was his job, to go fill up ATM machines with cash. So, if you're in that business and you own one of those businesses, you might want to consider it. You're inside the security of a bank, but the wrong person saw the wrong thing at the wrong time. And he saw that cash and he wanted it. And apparently was willing to use lethal force to get it. So this could have turned out much worse than it did. So I would hope they would review their security procedures. If your job requires you to do that, then, you might want to kind of revisit your security procedures and the way you go about doing that. So, but again, probably did it hundreds of times before. Nothing ever happened. Nobody thinks anything bad's going to happen that day or that time. But we've got to be aware. We've got to be concerned. So we're thankful that he's okay.
Can you tell us where the gun was reported stolen from and the type of gun?
The gun was reported stolen from New Orleans. And I believe, as Chief Lopinto may or may not have said, you have charged him with possession of that gun in Jefferson Parish. And since we, through forensics, can now put that gun at the scene of the Burger King in Boutte, we may even look at that. So we just got that information really within the last hour or so from the crime lab. So the gun has been matched to our scene at the Burger King. Glock, 40 caliber Glock.
And obviously additional charges in Jefferson Parish for armed robbery. 3 counts.
As he said.
It's 3 different instances with 5 counts.
That was in July. What time span again?
July 20th through July 27th.
And you're able to connect him to those robberies how?
That's a continuing investigation. I'm not going to reveal that this time.
When do you expect him to be booked into some charge?
Well, I guess as soon as they finish piling charges on him, we'll get him at some
I
point.
mean, I don't know what his bond
We
said.
know we're going
He'll
to
have
get
to
him.
get
He's not
released.
going anywhere, so
Yeah.
we'll get him hopefully sometime reasonably soon. Okay? That's about all we can tell you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming out today, and we're just happy that this individual's off the streets. Thank you. Good work.